Okay, let's get right into it. The date is March 7th, 2026. For 2 years now, the world has felt like it understood the new rules of this war. Well, we were wrong. What we just saw unfold over Ukraine in the last 24 hours, it wasn't just another attack. It was a statement. A brutal, calculated escalation that has redrawn the battle lines, not just in Eastern Europe, but really across the whole globe.
That's really the only way you can describe it. You see, it wasn't the single boom of a missile anymore. It was this constant, terrifying buzz of hundreds of engines tearing through the dark. And that sound signals a brand new, horrifying chapter in modern warfare. And you're going to want to stay with us for this entire breakdown, because what Ukraine did to strike back is something nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. Let's get back to the attack. 480. Just let that number sink in for a moment. That's how many drones the Russian Federation unleashed in one single coordinated swarm. Now, to put that into perspective, a large-scale drone strike in this conflict, up until now, might have been 30, maybe 50 drones. This was a 10-fold increase, an absolute wave of steel and explosives designed for one purpose: to overwhelm, to exhaust, and to terrify. And mixed right in with that swarm, almost like wolves hiding in a flock of sheep, were 29 advanced cruise missiles. These are the heavy hitters, right? They were aimed with precision at very specific targets, while all those drones acted as this massive chaotic screen to distract everyone. And all of it was unleashed in just one single night. A terrifying concentration of firepower. But here's the thing. While the world's attention was, of course, locked on the fireballs over Kyiv and Kharkiv, another battle, and maybe a more decisive one, was being fought in the dark, hundreds of miles away. A secret counterpunch was brewing, one that would send shockwaves through the entire Russian military command. This wasn't just a simple attack. It was a complex, multi-front operation, and we're going to break down every single piece of it. So first, let's really get into the anatomy of the assault itself. To understand the true horror of what happened, you have to get your head around the cold, brutal mathematics behind it all. This wasn't just some random act of terror. Oh no, this was a meticulously planned operation designed to break an enemy's will.
Okay, so the key term here is saturation density. Imagine you're a Ukrainian radar operator at 11:42 p.m. Suddenly, your screen just lights up, filled with more targets than you've ever seen in your life. Every single air defense system out there, it doesn't matter how advanced it is, it has a limit. There's a cap on how many threats it can track and engage at one time. Russia knew this limit, and they decided to just blow right past it, sending in so many drones that dozens were guaranteed to get through that defensive net. It's a numbers game.
And this, right here, illustrates the second goal: economic warfare. Just look at these numbers. It's staggering. The drones Russia sent are, believe it or not, relatively cheap. The whole swarm is estimated at less than $15 million. But the interceptors Ukraine has to fire to shoot them down, we're talking missiles from systems like the American Patriot or the German IRST, they're incredibly expensive. To counter that one attack, Ukraine had to spend an estimated $450 million in munitions. It's a devastatingly effective strategy, and they call it the asymmetric trap. As one defense analyst put it, the goal was twofold. Yeah, of course they wanted to hit targets, but more importantly, they wanted to force Ukraine to empty its magazines. They literally wanted to bankrupt the interceptor stockpile in a single night, leaving the country wide open for the attacks that are sure to come. So, the crucial takeaway here is that this swarm was as much an attack on Ukraine's treasury as it was on its cities. So while all those drones were creating chaos, the missiles were the executioners. In Kharkiv, a city that's become this incredible symbol of resilience, one of those 29 missiles, a Kh-101 cruise missile, just slammed into this 5-story apartment building. I mean, there were no military targets anywhere nearby. As of this morning, 9 civilians are confirmed dead. Rescuers found 2 of them, both children, in the rubble of what used to be a nursery. Military analysts are calling this a deliberate terror strike. It's a brutal, strategic move designed to force Ukraine into an impossible choice. Do you pull your precious air defense systems back from the front lines to protect your cities, or do you leave your civilians completely exposed? Meanwhile, over in the capital, Kyiv, the strategy was different, but honestly no less brutal. The target wasn't a residential block. It was something far more fundamental to just surviving in the dead of Ukrainian winter: the power grid. The missiles struck a critical energy node, a major transformer and switching station. And the result, as this chart shows, is that nearly 2,700 apartment buildings are now without heat. The temperature outside right now is -4 degrees Celsius. In these old Soviet-era concrete buildings, that means they basically become refrigerators within hours. The Ukrainian General Staff isn't mincing words. They're calling this the weaponization of the freeze, a deliberate attempt to make the capital city simply unlivable. But this story does not end with Ukraine just taking punches. As its cities were reeling, its military was landing a devastating counterpunch of its own in a place Russia considered completely and utterly untouchable, a place they thought was a safe harbor. So the question is, how do you fight back against an enemy that has overwhelming air power? Well, you don't play their game. You change the entire battlefield. And Ukraine took the fight to the sea, targeting the very heart of Russia's long-range strike capability. And the target was the port of Novorossiysk. Now, after repeated Ukrainian strikes on its main base in occupied Crimea, Russia had moved its most valuable Black Sea fleet assets here. They believed it was well out of range of Ukraine's naval drones. They were dead wrong. So, Ukraine's general staff has now confirmed what satellite images were hinting at all morning. Two of the most modern frigates in the entire Russian Navy, the Admiral Essen and the Admiral Makarov, were hit and are reportedly burning at the pier. And get this, they did it with experimental, long-range, submersible drones. These aren't just skimmers on the surface. These things travel beneath the waves, which makes them nearly impossible to detect. This is a technological leap that caught the entire Russian Navy completely by surprise. And these ships, they aren't just warships. They're the primary platforms Russia uses to launch Kaliber cruise missiles, the exact same type of weapon that hits cities like Kharkiv. And the strategic impact of this, as you can see, is just staggering. If these two frigates are out of commission, Russia's ability to launch sea-based missile strikes has been slashed by an estimated 40% in one night. This isn't just some tactical victory. It fundamentally changes Russia's ability to project power from the sea. It proves that no port in the Black Sea is safe for its fleet anymore. Now, to really grasp the significance of what happened in the last 24 hours, we have to zoom out. Because the timing of this attack was absolutely not a coincidence. This wasn't just about Ukraine. This was about distracting and dividing Western powers by connecting two conflicts that seem separate into one interconnected global front. Intelligence reports are now pointing to a new geopolitical strategy they're calling coordinated escalation. The theory is that Russia and Iran have a pact. When the West puts pressure on Iran in the Middle East, Russia escalates in Ukraine, and when Ukraine lands a successful blow against Russia, Iran threatens critical waterways like the Strait of Hormuz. The whole goal is to stretch Western military and political resources to the absolute breaking point, forcing them to make these impossible choices about where to focus their attention and their aid. And this right here illustrates the physical connection. Those 480 drones used in the swarm over Ukraine, they were Iranian designs. We are literally watching the creation of a technical Silk Road, where weapon designs, components, and even real-time battlefield data are being shared between different war zones. A tactic that works against an air defense system in Yemen can now be adapted and deployed in Ukraine just weeks later. We're really not looking at two separate wars anymore. We're looking at one global conflict linked by technology and shared strategic goals. And all of this brings us right back to the immediate and, frankly, terrifying present. The events of the last 24 hours have closed one chapter of this war and ripped open a brand new one that is faster, more automated, and infinitely more brutal. Right now, the world's media is scrambling to make sense of this new reality. Reuters is calling it the saturated front, warning that Western nations simply can't produce expensive interceptors fast enough to keep up with these cheap drone swarms. The Wall Street Journal is connecting the financial dots, noting that the crisis in the Middle East is driving up oil prices, which in turn fills the coffers that fund these Russian attacks. And The Guardian is, rightly, focusing on the human cost, the winter of discontent for millions of Ukrainians now facing the night with no heat. So as the sun sets on this chaotic day, the crucial question isn't really about what just happened anymore, but what happens next? Is Russia going to launch another swarm tonight to try and finish off Kyiv's power grid? Will Ukraine retaliate with its new long-range drones, striking even deeper into Russian territory? And will the West find a way to rearm Ukraine before these savage swarms become a nightly reality? One thing is for sure, this war has changed. If you found this breakdown valuable and you want to keep tracking the 2026 global crisis as it unfolds, make sure you subscribe to this channel for the latest updates and our in-depth explainers. And we definitely want to hear from you. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on this. Faced with limited resources, should Ukraine prioritize using its air defenses to protect cities, or use its offensive power to strike high-value targets like the Russian fleet? Let us know what you think. And to dive into another angle of this conflict, click on the explainer that's coming up on your screen right now. For now, stay informed and stay safe.